sufficient knowledge of Hebrew and Syriac to read at sight the Old Testament and the Peshitta, and to a lesser degree, Aramaic, Arabic, Coptic, and Phoenician.
I submit that the extraordinary, the unconventional, is the solution and our salvation.
What was his name? He was called Yeshua.
He's come out of nowhere and we don't know who he is. What do we know about him? He's leading desperate people. So this is a cult? We don't know who he's associated with. He could be creating an army. Or he could be leading them to their death.
I don't know what to believe anymore.
There is a terrible evil in the world. Darkness is spreading. Evacuating the building!
They're gonna hunt us down.
Where sin abounds, grace abounds more.
So that Shalom, Angem, Besem, Hamasiah. Selamat sore, selamat berjumpa kembali dengan Lidara Rayuawa Channel yang pada hari ini juga live bersama-sama dengan Al Hayat Indonesia dan Bang Yoel atau Yoel Prasetyo Channel. Selamat siang, ya, selamat hari Minggu, selamat beribadah bagi saudara-saudara yang akan melaksanakan ibadah, dan salam di dalam Tuhan Yesus Kristus bagi saudara-saudara yang sudah melaksanakan ibadah pagi hari. Baik, pada sore hari ini, ya, menjelang sore hari ini kita akan membahas bagaimana versi-versi buku atau kitab dari tetangga sebelah. Ya, tadi juga di channel Sang Penggugat sudah dibahas. Saya melanjutkan akan membahas ini supaya ada kesinambungan. Sebelumnya selamat siang, selamat sore juga menjelang berbuka puasa bagi yang melaksanakan puasa, ya, kepada saudara-saudara yang di LC atau di live chat, ya, terima kasih masih tetap setia untuk menyaksikan channel-channel Kristobar, terutama Lidara Rayuawa Channel, Al Hayat Indonesia, Yoel Prasetyo, dan channel-channel lainnya termasuk Sang Penggugat dan channel-channel Solata, BM2 Apologet, dan channel-channel Kristobar lainnya. Oke, terima kasih atas kesetiaannya. Tuhan Yesus memberkati. Juga salam-salam juga untuk saudara-saudara yang ada dimanapun berada di luar negeri, baik di dalam Republik Indonesia ini. Pada siang hari ini, salam kebangkitan, shalom untuk kita semua, karena berkat dan anugerah Tuhan Yesus masih tetap bersama-sama dengan kita. Sekali lagi, jangan lupa untuk like, subscribe, dan share untuk channel-channel Kristobar, yaitu channel Gerbang Kasih, kemudian Lidara Rayuawa, channel Al Hayat Indonesia, channel Yoel Prasetyo Channel, Solata, BM2 Apologet, Sang Penggugat, Chiller, dan channel-channel Kristobar lainnya. Jangan lupa untuk tetap setia, dan agar channel-channel tersebut tetap bisa memberitakan firman Tuhan. Oke, sebelum kita lanjut, kita sapa dulu saudara-saudara yang sudah ada di room pada sore hari ini, ya. Saya sapa dulu. Shalom Bu Sofia, Al Hayat Indonesia. Shalom Bro Rene. Shalom Pak King David. Selamat sore
Pak Lidara, selamat sore.
Shalom, shalom.
Aduh, kalau suara yang dipenuhi rahmat dan dipenuhi anugerah Tuhan Yesus itu, suaranya tuh luar biasa.
Luar biasa.
Mantap. Suaranya
Bukan suara
itu
Takia.
betul. Suara yang penuh dengan hikmat, ya, dari Tuhan dan dari Roh Kudus itu sendiri.
Amin.
Baik, sebelum kita masuk ke dalam topik ini, seperti biasa, pasti kita harus berdoa, meminta pimpinan Roh Kudus untuk dapat menjalani, ya, live ini dengan baik dari awal hingga akhir, dan juga melalui live ini banyak jiwa-jiwa diselamatkan, dan kita boleh mengabarkan Injil kebenaran Tuhan Yesus Kristus yang sudah bangkit dari kematian. Baik, seperti biasa, Pak King David, kalau tidak keberatan untuk
Ya, siap.
berdoa, kita
Baik.
berdoa sama-sama. Silakan, Pak.
Mari kita satukan hati kita.
Haleluya.
Kembali kami datang di hadapan hadirat-Mu ya Bapa. Kami bersyukur pada siang atau sore hari ini Tuhan masih beserta dengan kami. Tuhan masih memberikan kekuatan, kesehatan kepada kami. Sungguh kami bersyukur di hari Minggu yang penuh berkat, penuh mujizat, di mana kami telah mengadakan ibadah syukur kami. Terima kasih Tuhan. Biarlah hari ini kami akan mulai siaran lagi lewat Lidara Raiwawa Channel, Al Hayat Indonesia, dan juga Pak Yoel dan channel-channel yang lain. Dalam siaran ini, kiranya Tuhan mengurapi seluruh bahan yang akan dibagikan pada sore hari ini Tuhan. Urapi hamba-Mu, Pak Lidara, berikan kekuatan, kesehatan, hikmat, marifat turun ke atas hamba-Mu, sehingga apapun yang dibagikan sore ini menjadi berkat bagi setiap orang yang bisa menyaksikan siaran ini di belahan bumi manapun, ke ujung-ujung dunia. Biarlah semua ini dapat memberikan pencerahan dan memberkati setiap orang yang menyaksikan ini. Tuhan Yesus, kami juga berdoa untuk peralatan yang akan dipakai, baik itu komputer, laptop, signal, StreamYard, dan seluruh peralatan yang digunakan ini. Biarlah dikuduskan di dalam nama Yesus Kristus, agar semua peralatan dapat bekerja dengan baik. Tuhan memberikan cuaca yang baik, Tuhan memberikan suasana yang baik, dan Tuhan juga memberikan damai, sejahtera, dan sukacita di tengah-tengah kami semua, anak-anak-Mu Tuhan. Pimpinlah kiranya acara virtual ini dari awal, pertengahan sampai akhirnya, di dalam pimpinan daripada kuat kuasa Roh Kudus, dan setiap rencana jahat dari kuasa-kuasa jahat, orang-orang yang ingin berbuat jahat terhadap siaran ini, baik penyusup-penyusup yang ingin bikin kacau siaran ini, kami ikat kuasanya dan kami hancurkan di dalam nama Tuhan Yesus Kristus. Hanya Tuhan Yesus Kristus, melalui kuasa Roh Kudus yang kami persilakan berkarya di tengah-tengah siaran ini Tuhan. Kami berdoa juga anak-anak-Mu, baik yang sudah ada di room saat ini, maupun yang akan menyusul masuk ke room ini, Tuhan memberikan hikmat marifat untuk berkata-kata, agar apapun yang kami sampaikan menjadi berkat bagi banyak orang yang menyaksikan ini. Tuhan, terima kasih untuk sore yang indah ini. Kami juga berdoa untuk anak-anak-Mu di live chat, Tuhan terus memimpin mereka dan memberkati mereka dalam kesetiaan mereka terus mengikuti siaran ini. Tuhan memberkati berlimpah-limpah. Terima kasih Bapak, kami serahkan semua acara ini ke dalam tangan pimpinan Tuhan, dan kami buka semua ini hanya di dalam nama Tuhan Yesus Kristus. Haleluya. Amin.
Amin. Haleluya.
Amin. Haleluya.
Ya, haleluya. Luar biasa. Hari yang indah ini ya. Kita boleh berkumpul lagi, kita bisa menyaksikan live pada sore hari ini. Baik, sebelum kita masuk ke dalam materi, ada baiknya kita melihat cuplikan dari video ini, apa yang dikatakan oleh pemimpin umat agama sebelah ini. Dia sendiri yang berkata apa yang terdapat atau apa yang dimaksud dengan versi-versi tersebut. Sebaik kita tonton sama-sama ya. Jadi supaya tidak gagal fokus atau tidak dikatakan kita memfitnah atau kita melakukan kebohongan. Baik, kita saksikan dulu ya apa yang dikatakan oleh video ini. Oke, sebentar kita lihat videonya yang mana ini.
Greetings, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of this fabulous series that we've been going through, myself and Dr. J. Smith, and has to do with the early Quranic manuscripts and the many problems that are found in them. We've dealt really with a number of issues. For instance, we've been through some of these specific individual manuscripts and showed some of the analyses that are done on them by scholars, by experts. We've been through also some of the problems with the early traditional compilation datings. We talked a little bit about also the carbon dating, and we discussed some of these specific manuscripts like the Sana manuscript and the two layers basically are found in it. Right now, we are going to talk about something that probably many Muslims are going to be shocked when we mention: the 31 different Arabic Qurans. You've heard me correctly. The 31 different Arabic Qurans, and the number is still counting. The hope, I think, Dr. J, is to find the 37, basically.
Now, these are current day. These are modern day Qurans.
That's right.
They're all in Arabic. These are not translations. We're not talking about English translations or Urdu translations or French. These are Arabic Qurans, all of them different. Correct. And not just a few. We're talking about tens of thousands of differences.
So what do we mean by the 31 different Arabic Qurans here?
Well, to understand what we're talking about, we need to understand, and we need to define the consonants. If you could do that here, looking at the Arabic skeletal script.
So basically, if you look here at the script itself, there are letters, and you put the letters together and you come up with words. And that's what we call the structure, or the rasm, basically. In fact, the early manuscript, like we have an example here from the Samarkand manuscript, one of the early Quranic manuscripts, there is something missing here. As someone who reads Arabic, I can tell you I can look at it, but it will be a while before I take a number of guesses at what does it mean. Why? Because the diacritical markings are missing, and the dottings are missing to identify basically the pronunciation and the vowel markings for the word. Therefore, we are left now with a number of guesses how you can read certain words. In other words, you're not going to really be reading specifically and exactly the same way that it was intended.
Here's another example. There are no diacritical marks, no vowelization in the Sana manuscript.
That's even another earlier one.
Here's another one. You can see another example. This is from the Topkapi. They have penciled in red. Notice that. A beginning of diacritical marks. Those are later penciling.
And that's important for people to see what we mean by that. Those dots, that's what I was referring to. This is that's a system that was invented by Abu Aswad ad-Duali, and he began to use this because he was troubled by the fact that people were not reading the Quran accurately.
Okay. Now here's another one. This is Ali's Quran. This is a Shiite Quran. Again, no dots. I don't see any dots there. I don't see any vowels. I don't see any damas, no kasras, no fatha. And then we now come to the 28 letters.
So these are the 28 Arabic letters. However, if you show this to an Arab speaker, they're going to be surprised because there are things missing here. What is missing is the dottings, and now you're going to see it.
Now, these are the six, before we get to the dottings, these are the 6 letters that I'm going to put circle in yellow that are unique, that don't need the dottings. So you have the El.
Exactly. No matter what, they're never going to read a dotting, basically.
You have the Lam, you have the Mim, you have the Ha, and you have the Wow. So those are the 6 that don't need any diacritical marks. But the other 22 do.
That's right.
So of the 28, 6 are unique, 22 absolutely need the dots. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, let's take a look at this smiley face here. There's a smiley face, right? What happens when you put 1 dot?
That's a noon.
Okay, 2 dots.
Ta.
Okay, 3 dots.
Tha.
Okay, 1 dot below.
Ba.
Okay, 2 dots below.
Yeah.
So, what happens when you just take that? Ta, tha,
Ta.
ba,
yeah.
yeah.
5 different possibilities.
5 different letters from just one little smiley face.
That's right.
Can you see why dots are absolutely important? This changes everything. Now let's put it, and let's look at 3 smiley faces connected together. So smiley face, smiley face, smiley face. When we add dots and vowels above, below the line, we get 19 different words. There you can see them right. There's an example of 19.
So basically, if you remove the dottings, it's almost going to look the same. But once you start adding the dottings, look at the different meanings that emerge out of this.
Okay. Now, let's now look at the 31 Qurans that Hatun Tash, my colleague in UK, has found. These are not my Qurans, these are hers. She has found these in different marketplaces, I think in Yemen, in Jordan, and in Morocco. Those are the three countries that she and her friends have found. So she's been scouring these for about the last 2 years. So these are not difficult to find. If she can find 31 of them, then there shouldn't be any difficult, and hopefully we're going to be able to find 37 that are out there in the marketplace.
But Dr. Smith, I thought there was only one Quran.
That's what we've been told, isn't it? It looks like there's 31. Now, people say, this is not a big problem. But let me just look and go through them real quickly. There is the first one. You go ahead and read them as we put them up.
As for instance, As-Susi. This is Al-Jafar, Abu Jafar. This is Yaqub. This is Duri. Ibn Amir. Khalaf. I cannot see it from far away here.
It's Khalaf al-Khalid.
Al-Khalid, yes. Al-Layth, Ayman al-Khalil, Warsh, for instance.
Warsh. Now, Warsh are popular in North Africa. So this is one of those that's popular in North Africa.
That's right. And here's Warsh.
Another Warsh. Hold on a minute. You can have two different Warshes. Looks like there's more than just one Warsh.
Popular somewhere else. And then
Ibn Jammaz.
Yeah.
Duri.
Another Duri.
So another Duri, the same person.
That's right.
Two different texts. We're going to get to that when we get to the graph.
There's another Khalaf.
Khalaf again. Al-Kisai.
Al-Kisai, yeah.
Now this is Shoba ibn Ayah.
Yeah, they're starting to get tiny.
These are getting too tiny for us to even read this far away.
Yeah.
That's Hisham ibn Amr. There you have Al-Bazi. Khalaf.
Another Khalaf.
Shoba again, another Shoba. So there's a second different with the same name. And then we get, now these are getting so tiny, I can't even read them. Ibn Kathir, not the commentator.
That's right.
Reader. Okay, and then we finally get to...
In fact, Ibn Kathir is considered to be one of the early, basically, readers as well.
Okay, so I'm sorry, let me just go forward. Now, I'm going to have to go through all these again. So let's just put them up there one after another. All 26 have come up. And this is 26 that she had as of last summer. Since last summer now, she's found another 5. So we're up to 31. But here's what I want to show you this next graph here, because this next graph really then produces what I'm looking for. Let's take Hafs out of them, but take a look at all of those names along the right side. And you can see Hisham and Kalum and Warish and you can see Al-Bazi. And when you come to this one here, there you can see Hafs, where the black circle is around.
That's right.
Hafs is the one that is used today. All of those they had to choose from. And when you look at each one, let's just put to the next slide. When you look at each one of those brown cloud forms, look at the numbers that are in them. Those represent how many variants each one of those readers have from Hafs, who's circled in black. So Al-Bazi, 1,094 variants. Coming on down to Kalun, 1,700 variants. Hisham, 1,300 variants. Khalaf, 2,629 variants. And then you have Al-Duri, 336 variants. Look at Abu Ali Al-Harith, 5,000 variants from Hafs. Thousands of variants. We're not just talking about few. We're talking about thousands of variants. And when we go back and look at the bigger graph, Hatun has gone through and she's just looked at 23 Qurans. That's all she's had time to do so far of the 31 she has. And she's already found 59,776. I mean, almost 60,000.
All you need is just one difference.
That's all you need is one difference.
And that shoots down that theory immediately.
Now let's look at Hafs again, the one in black, and let's look at his date. Look when he died, 805. In fact, when you look at all these dates here, they're all in the 800s. Most of them are in the 800s. They're all in the 9th century. So this has been around for over 1,000 years. People say, well, it's not very important. These are nothing more than ahruf and kida. It's different readings. There you can see where the number are. But what I want to do is I want to look at these readings. So let's take a look at some of them.
That's right.
And let's look at this. This is the one that most Muslims come up with as an example of it's nothing any different. I'll do the Hafs, you do the Warsh, okay? So
Right.
Hafs is the one that was created in 1924. The Warsh is now very popular in Northern Africa. On the one side, it says, the only owner of the day of recompense, that's Maliki, has been changed to,
Malik,
which
the
is
king of.
the day. And so they say this all the time, Mr. Smith, the owner of the day or the king, it's the same thing.
Let me add something here. I would tell you I did a study on this, and there is another reading by Abu Hanifa, and it says Malaka, meaning possessed the day of judgment.
Okay, so he possessed. So there is a theological difference. Here we have now Surah 2, Ayah 10. You have Yaksi Buna in Hafs, which says, in their hearts is a disease, and Allah increases their disease. A painful doom is theirs because they lie. It's
right.
changed to?
Yukadhibun, meaning they accused others of lying.
So, significance, are they doomed because they lie or because they accuse others of lying?
That's right.
Significant.
That's right.
Surah 2, Ayah 58. Nagfiru is, and when he said, enter this town and eat bountifully and say, forgive us, and we shall forgive you your sins.
That's right. And the next one, it's yughfaru in a passive, basically, and it shall be forgiven.
So, who forgives sins? Is it we, God, or are they arbitrarily forgiven?
That's right.
Huge difference. Hafs, in Surah 2, Ayah 125 is, and take you has been changed to?
Ittakhadhu, they took or have taken.
So, Hafs takes is addressing a plural form. Do they take this place now, or has it already been taken?
That's right.
In Surah 2, Ayah 140, in the Hafs, it says, or do you say that Abraham, Jacob, and his offspring were Jews?
In the Warsh says, and or do they say?
Now, who knows better than Allah, you or the others? In the Hafs, you is plural.
That's right.
So you can see there's a problem there. And here, Surah 2, Ayah 184, Miss Keenan is one poor person. For those who can fast with difficulty, they have been to feed a one poor person, is changed to
Masakin. And that's really important. Many, by the way, poor persons. Why this is important? Because remember, Islam is a religion of works. And this is about fasting. Feeding one is different than feeding many.
There you go.
And this plural, meaning at least three.
So I'd like to know which one I'm required if I don't fast. Here you have, in them is a great sin, has been changed to?
Basically plenty or many. And here is a great example of what we were talking about, the dotting. Because in one, the dot was below, here, three above. That's what makes a difference here.
So is drinking wine and gambling a great sin or plenty of sin? So you can see that would have a huge consideration. Surah 33, Ayah 68 has been cursed them with a great curse, or in the case of Warsh,
much curses or many curses.
Let's go on. Here you have Dafu. Dafu was repelling. Allah's repelling some has been changed to
Allah defending.
Well, so did Allah repel some men or did Allah defend against men? What action did Allah use?
That's
Repel,
right.
which is offensive, or defend, which is defensive.
That's right.
Now we get to Surah 2, 2, Ayah 270. And there you have, I'm just gone beyond myself. Let's go back one. It doesn't seem to want to work right now. You have wa kafalaha, for her Lord made her grow in a good manner and put her under care of Zachariah. This is talking about Mary.
That's right.
It has been changed in the Warsh to
he, Zachariah, basically, or Zachariah, I should say, took charge of her.
So did Allah put Zachariah in charge of Mary, or did Zachariah take charge himself?
One is active, one is passive.
There you go. And you can see it's by two different characters. Surah 3, Ayah 79. Be you Rabbaniyun, because you are teaching the book, has been changed.
You know the book.
Do believers teach the book, or do they simply know the book? Many people know a book, but are not capable of teaching it.
That's right.
Surah 3, Ayah 83. Do they seek, and him shall they be returned?
The
has
other
been
one.
changed. This is gone. I'm having a problem with my PowerPoint here at this time.
That's no problem.
Let's go to the next one, since this one doesn't want to see it. This is interesting. Qatala versus Qutila. And how many a prophet fought, with whom were many worshippers of the Lord, has changed to?
How many prophets were killed?
Did the prophets simply fight, or were they killed? Now, if I were a prophet, I would rather fight than be killed, as the former survives.
That's right.
Cyril 6, Ayah 115. Is the word of God fulfilled, or the words of God fulfilled? The singular Hafs word doesn't agree with the plural form of the second sentence. So there you have a grammatical mistake.
Absolutely. And you know, are we talking about, what do we mean by words? That like the whole book, basically, or a specific passage, or a specific word if it is in the singular?
Now, I've got 70 of these, and we could continue on and on and on. I think we can stop right there.
Oke, tadi kita sudah lihat ya sedikit cuplikannya bagaimana ternyata banyak perbedaan-perbedaan ya. Jadi jelas karena masih panjang videonya, kita cukup itu aja ya. Cuplikan-cuplikan tersebut nanti kita akan lihat bagaimana adanya perbedaan-perbedaan itu. Ya, kemudian sebelum kita masuk ke perbincangan, ada satu lagi kita lihat bagaimana sang guru besar sendiri ya, sang guru besar dari Muslim sendiri yang mengatakan apa yang dia katakan. Kita lihat ya sebelum kita masuk ke pembicaraan. Oke, kita saksikan sama-sama. Namanya Dr. Zehzad Salim, ya, dia ahli dalam Al-Quran.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear viewers, from today I begin this lecture series on the collection and transmission history of the Quran. It is primarily based on a 15-year-long research, part of which also formed my doctoral thesis. The first question which arose in my mind when I began studying and teaching the subject was that currently there are 5 different versions of the Quran found in the Muslim Ummah. Now, this might be a startling revelation for most of you, but then for academic circles, this is nothing new. So we have 5 different versions of the Quran circulating in the Muslim Ummah. We have this famous version, or I would say the Riwayah of Hafs from Asim, which is the Quran, which is taught in most parts of the Muslim Ummah and which is known to most of us. And these Qurans, as I would point out, are actually named after a famous reciter who used to recite the Quran in a particular way. And when I say reciter, it does not merely refer to pronunciation, it also refers to variation in words. So when I say there are 5 versions, it means that there are 5 different versions which have different words at times. There are verbs which are different, there are nouns which are different, there's a difference between plural and singular, there's a difference between declensions or the i'rab, and then we have other differences as well. So the first of these Qurans, as I said, which circulates in most of the Muslim Ummah, is called the Riwayah of Hafs from Asim. And the second of these versions is called the Riwayah of Warsh and Nafi. And this is also, this Quran circulates in most parts of Morocco and Algeria, and almost all of, in fact, Morocco and Algeria read the Quran on the Riwayah of Warsh from Nafi. Warsh and Nafi, and as I previously said, Hafs and Asim, all these are reciters. Hafs is a student of Asim, and similarly, Warsh is a student of Nafi. And Asim lived or died in 127 Hijrah, and Nafi himself died in 169 Hijrah. The third version of the Quran, which is prevalent in most parts of Libya and Tunisia, it is called the Riwayah of Qalun from Nafi. Now, Nafi, again, he had two students. The previous version was from Warsh, and this is from his other student, Qalun. So this is the third version of the Quran. Now, the fourth version of the Quran is found in parts of Sudan, and this is called the Riwayah of Ad-Duri from Abu Amr. Abu Amr is also another reciter of the Quran. And may I also point out that Asim himself lived in Kufa and Nafi in Medina, and Abu Amr, whose Qiraat I'm just mentioning, he's lived in Basra. And as I said, his Quran is found in most parts of Sudan. And finally, we have the Quran of Hisham. The Riwayah of Hisham from the Qiraat of Abdullah ibn Amir. Abdullah ibn Amir was a reciter of Damascus, and he died in 180 in Hijrah. So these are 5 different versions of the Quran circulating in the Muslim Ummah currently. And as I said, there are the differences in these versions is not just in matters of pronunciation or dialect or accent, but it also relates to differences in word patterns, differences in nouns, different in a singular or plural noun, and similarly in declensions or Arab. And then there are differences in particles also. For example, at places we'll have waw or a fa, and a difference of opinion. And just to give you an example, that differences which are found in these various versions. So, for example, if I categorize these differences, although these categories which I have made are not exhaustive, but some of the categories which can give you some idea of these differences is that in one version we find the words, as you can see being displayed on your screen, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ, and in the other version we'll find فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ الْغَنِيُّ الْحَمِيدُ. So we find the word huwa is missing in one of them. Similarly, there is this difference in singular and plural nouns. So the first of these verses which I cited was Surah Hadid's 24th verse. And now I will cite Surah Tahrim's 12th verse. And the words of this verse in one of the versions is وَصَدَّقَتْ بِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّهَا وَكُتُبِهِ وَكَانَتْ مِنَ الْقَانِتِينَ. And the words in another version are وَصَدَّقَتْ بِكَلِمَاتِ رَبِّهَا وَكِتَابِهِ. In the previous we had the plural kutub, and now we have kitab. وَكِتَابِهِ وَكَانَتْ مِنَ الْقَانِتِينَ. And then we have also the differences in verb patterns. For example, in one verse of Surah Araf is verse 141. The words are is anjaynakum min ali fir'auna yasumunakum su'al azab yuqattiluna abna'akum. And in other version the words are yaqtuluna abna'akum. And then again we have a difference in declensions or the Arab. And in Surah Al-Lahab, the 4th verse reads in most versions as حَمَّالَةَ الْحَطَبِ فِي جِيدِهَا حَبْلٌ مِّن مَّسَدٍ. Why some versions say حَمَّالَةُ الْحَطَبِ. So it is declined in the nominative, while the first one is declined in the accusative. So all in all, we can see that there is a difference in these areas. And if you ask me that does this difference change the meaning of the Quran as well, I will say yes. In many cases, it does change the meaning. And although the change might be very minor and it might not be of much significance, but again, it does change the meaning. And in some cases, there is a drastic change in meaning as well. For example, in the in the tayammum or in the wuzu verse of Surah Maida, which is the 6th verse of Surah Maida, if it is read in a particular way during ablution, we would not need to wash our feet. To wipe them would be sufficient. To do masa on them would be sufficient. So if we read the verse as Arjulakum ilal Ka'bayn, the way it is found in some of the versions, then we'll have to wash our feet. But if we read it as Arjulekum, then we would not need to wash our feet. Merely wiping them or doing masa on them would be sufficient if we are doing wuzu. So you can see that there is a difference in the directives as well. Now, the question which now arises is that if there are five versions of the Quran circulating in this Muslim Ummah, then which one is the correct one? I'm saying this because there are other versions also which are classically accepted, but that I leave to the next point. There are variant multiple readings of the Quran. The Quran can be read in various ways, in multiple ways. And why? Because our scholars say that these multiple ways have been sanctioned by the Prophet. But when they say this, they do not cite any criteria from the Prophet. But what they do is they cite their own criteria in this regard, and they say that if any reading of the Quran, any recital of the Quran is sanctioned by 3 criteria, then it can be accepted as a verse of the Quran. That particular recital will be a verse of the Quran. And these 3 criteria are very, very famous, and any person who has even a slight knowledge of the Qur'an science, he knows that a qiraat or a reading should be in accordance with the rules of the Arabic grammar, and then it should be reliably traced back to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the 3rd criteria is that it should be in accordance with any of the Usmanic copies. So any reading, any recital which is in consonance with these 3 criteria is regarded as acceptable. And may I show you, viewers, that if I show you this Quran before me and I open up any page of the Quran, you'll find on its sides that other variant readings of a particular verse which is mentioned in the main text are mentioned in the margins, and you can see that there's hardly a page in this whole corpus of the Quran which is devoid of any variation in this reading. And this variation in reading, again, as I said, is basically acceptable to all our scholars if these readings conform to these standards which I have just narrated before you. And viewers, also interesting is the fact that these readings, as I said, at times they do not have a very significant change in the meaning, but at many a time we have significant changes in the meaning as well. Because when words change, when we find that there is a difference in declensions and verb patterns and nouns, the meaning obviously changes. And just to quote a very glaring example, in again the same verse, Surah Maida's 6th verse, we find that in the case of dry ablution or tayammum, now one verse has the words "Awla mastumun nisa," or I would say most versions, which means that if men have had intercourse with their wives, and they do not find water for ablution, then they can do tayammum. However, in one of the other versions, which is or one of the other recitals, which is attributed to Hamza, a famous.
Ya, jadi itu ya, jelas nyata bahwa versi-versi yang berbeda ini mempunyai makna dan arti yang berbeda pula. Jadi apa yang diklaim sebagai sama di seluruh dunia ternyata hanyalah klaim kosong belaka. Jadi semua berbeda. Yang berbicara adalah ahlinya sendiri. Oke, tanggapannya Pak King David, silakan. Sebelum kita lanjut lagi.
Wah, ini betul-betul berita yang luar biasa nih Pak Lidara. Saya sambung dulu nih. Ya, berita yang luar biasa ya. Artinya yang selama ini mereka klaim bahwa buku kitab mereka tidak pernah berubah, titik komanya, ternyata telah dibuktikan pada siang hari ini. Ada 31 kitab, bahkan katanya sampai 37 ya ditemukan ya. Sangat berbeda artinya, ya, kata gantinya, perorangannya, itu semua berbeda. Jadi apa yang dibangga-banggakan selama ini ternyata ya pepesan kosong ya. Dan itu sangat memalukan. Ya, lebih baik kita berkata jujur daripada kita membela taklif buta yang sebenarnya di depan mata sendiri kalau mau pelajari itu berbeda. Ya, tapi kan kita tahu sendiri mereka, sekalipun kita menunjukkan bukti, mereka tetap membantah. Ya, mereka tidak mengakui dengan berbagai-bagai alasan. Mereka mencari ke sana dan kemari supaya jangan malu begitu loh. Jadi siang ini semua teman-teman kita menyaksikan Pak Lidara membagi video ini, betul-betul luar biasa. Saya menyaksikan, wow, hebat sekali. Ternyata benar, bukan satu di seluruh dunia, tetapi banyak versinya. Terima kasih. Silakan yang lain melanjuti.
Baik, terima kasih. Oke, kita lanjut ke Bu Sofiatul. Silakan, Al Hayat Indonesia. Apa ada yang mau dibagikan?
Ya, jadi sebenarnya tadi dari Dr. Syesha tadi memang satu hal yang harus kita bagikan kepada muslim awam, Pak, yang mengklaim bahwa mereka hanya mempunyai satu Quran tidak berubah sampai titik komanya, lafaznya, suaranya pun tidak berubah. Dan ini ahli-ahli ulama itu tidak pernah ada yang mengatakan mereka mendapatkan Qurannya dari imam-imam Masjidil Haram seperti yang dikatakan Pak Dhani tadi di sang penggugat ya. Jadi kita sudah jelas itu klaim-klaim muslim awam.
Iya, tadi Dr. Zizat ini adalah biografinya saja ada lengkap semua, dan beliau memang seorang pakar yang meneliti perbedaan tersebut dan versi-versi yang ada selama 15 tahun. Ya, tadi kita sudah dengarkan. Ya, jadi ini bukan kaleng-kaleng. Ya, bukan hanya kelas seperti para begoders ya. Ini orang
kelas
yang
RT.
punya kredibilitas.
Bukan kelas RT.
Bukan kelas RT ya. Dia punya kredibilitas yang tinggi. Ya, oke. Lanjut kita sebelum nanti kita bacakan, karena di sini juga sudah saya rangkum dari tulisan-tulisan yang ada, mencocokkan apakah benar yang dikatakan tadi dokter itu. Tapi ternyata setelah saya baca bukunya, ya benar memang ada. Jadi di samping video, buku pun ada. Ya, bagaimana menunjukkan perubahan-perubahan yang ada dan versi-versi yang ada. Baik, kita lanjut ke tadi sudah Napoleon Lukuaka. Silakan.
Salam Bapak Lidara.
Shalom.
Saya ikut mengikuti tadi sekitar 73 versi. Saya membayangkan Pak Lidara betapa capeknya si malaikat Jibril ini.
Aduh, itu.
Satu versi aja Pak dia sudah setengah mati, apalagi 37. Nah ini 37 ini waktu Mr. M lagi kedinginan karena ketakutan, mungkin dia tumpuk di 2 hira Pak. Sehingga munculnya banyak. Jadi pergi pulang dari surga bumi ini dia cukup capek Pak. Itu perlu dikasih penghargaan Pak.
Iya, kasihan ya.
Kasihan Pak.
Kalah Superman kalah ya.
Iya Pak, itu aduh sedih sekali saya rasa itu. Terima kasih Pak.
Oke, baik. Nggak usah dipikirin. Mana boleh pusing sendiri. Biar ada
Kesedihanmu nggak berarti di sini, bro. Nggak usah sedih di sini.
Kita nonton aja. Nggak usah
Itu
dipikirin.
Pak Lidara saya tambahkan sedikit Pak. Tolong ini sampaikan di Pak Aditya. Kan ini juga perlu dia pikirkan itu kecapean dari ini. Si Jibril ini Pak. Biar dia jangan terlalu ini.
Biasanya dia relay ini siaran saya ini. Siaran Mabuk. Ya mudah-mudahan dia relay sore hari ini. Biar tambah pintar ya maksudnya.
Iya. Makasih. Shalom.
Baik, terima kasih.
Saya pantau.
Baik, terima kasih. Oke, lampu teplok. Aduh, ini lampu teplok ini. Dulu kecil saya pakai lampu teplok ini.
Terima kasih waktunya Pak Lidara.
Silakan.
Iya. Menanggapi tadi ada perbedaan susunan katanya. Terus cara mereka mengimani itu bagaimana nantinya? Apa enggak semrawut?
Aduh,
sudah
ini mikir
jelas
lagi.
Ya,
saya juga pusing, Pak.
Imani saja.
Imani saja, Pak.
Yang anehnya, mereka itu yang ikut aja gitu loh. Tidak mau menelisik ya. Ini harus bagaimana mereka mengambil sikap itu. Apakah mengikut yang ini atau yang itu kan begitu. Mereka mengikut aja ngikut kan begitu. Makanya kan kadang-kadang kalau saya lihat Bu Sofi ya, terus Pak Lidara di channelnya Pak Bom atau pas tadi di sang penggugat itu rame sama Pak Dani itu ya. Pak Dani kan tetap gitu-gitu aja pokoknya. Kalau dia ngikutinya siapa itu tadi Imam Masjidil Haram atau apa siapa tadi? Nah, pokoknya itu ilmu pokoknya ini yang susah Pak, gitu loh. Saya kan nggak mau tahu, nggak mau cari tahu gitulah masalah yang benar yang mana ya. Terus Al-Quran yang saya imani ini bagaimana? Apakah benar firman murni dari Tuhan atau bukan? Ya itulah ya umat wallahu alam namanya Pak ya. Ya silahkan mungkin saudara yang lain mau menambahkan.
Iya Pak, nggak usah bingung Pak. Biarin itu derita mereka Pak. Yang penting kita sudah sampaikan apa yang dikatakan oleh pimpinan atau ulamanya sendiri. Baik, Pak Dalton, silakan. Shalom.
Shalom Pak Lidara. Terima kasih.
Shalom.
Jadi sebenarnya tadi luar biasa ya. Memang dari dulu sudah nampak bahwa Al-Quran itu banyak versi begitu. Belum lagi Al-Quran yang dimakan kambing gitu ya. Ayat rajam itu. Nah, dalam hal ini kita dapat mengetahui bahwa memang benar tadi teman-teman kita Muslim itu hanya bisa modal untuk mengimani saja. Yang penting kami punya Nabi, yang penting kami punya Al-Quran. Nah, nanti ketika di surga, ya tetap saja sabara gitu. Satu batang rame-rame, itu aja itu. Terima kasih Pak.
Iya iya. Sabar.
Sabar, jangan ngegas.
Ya, nggak sabar satu batang rame-rame. Waduh, gila.
Mantap.
Kalau mengenai itu nanti ada videonya lagi yang ulamanya mengatakan nanti di perempuan itu ya di surganya itu nanti dapat satu laki-laki. Ya bisa sabar satu batang rame-rame. Oke, Pak Wahyu Ilahi, silakan.
Ya, salam Pak.
Salam.
Ditara dan teman-teman ya. Ya. Jadi dengan uraian tadi justru semakin ini ya Pak ya. Kita bisa melihat betapa orang-orang di Indonesia itu benar-benar apa ya, sudah akal waraknya sudah hilang semua ya. Seorang yang sudah memaparkan begitu luar biasa aja masih dibantas, dan bantahnya pun tidak pakai data kan gitu ya. Kemudian 31 ya tadi ya, bahkan bukan juga lebih dari itu.
Baru ditemukan 31.
Baru Pak, itu dari tulisan saja, belum lagi kiroatnya Pak, cara baca. Ya syair. Nah, kiroat itu atau tanda cara baca itu setelah saya ingat dulu ya, itu ternyata tanda baca atau kiroat cara baca itu lebih kepada syair Pak ya. Jadi si Jibril ini bawa syair-syair itu dari mana? Apakah Tuhannya itu naik turun itu di sana itu sedang berpantun ria ya, tanda baca atau cara membaca kiroat itu ya. Nah, inilah yang seringkali kita ingin ketahui dari teman-teman yang meyakini itu ya. Dari 31 aja udah berbeda. Bagaimana dengan bacanya, dengan kiroat yang panjang pendek lah itu ya. Itu yang benar-benar sangat membuat pusing. Tadi udah pusing, saya nggak mau nambahin Pak, tidak pusing.
Jangan ya, Pak, mereka tambah pusing, biar aja derita ya, mereka Pak.
Iya, ya. Jadi ya janganlah ya saudaraku sebangsa setanah air, janganlah Anda dibikin bego lagi, bikin bodoh lagi oleh para penafsir ya, buku-buku yang memang tidak memiliki dasar legal standing di dalam iman ya, karena memang jelas sekali iman itu harus terbangun terdahulu sesuai dengan ayat-ayat yang Anda miliki ya. Di situ ada iman, ada namanya milah, dan ada syariat. Nah, semua sudah dikatakan mereka harus mengikuti yang ada di bangsa Israel. Ya, saya sudah telusuri nabi yang ada di Arab itu nggak ada, Pak. Yang adanya hanya di bangsa Israel. Itu aja, Pak Bidara. Tuhan memberkati.
Baik, ya, Tuhan berkati.
Pak Lidara, Bu Fadila mau masuk.
Iya, sudah itu udah ada.
Oke,
ya, Pak.
Tuhan.
Pak KH Forest Camp, silakan.
Ya, salam
Pak
Lidara.
Tanggapannya setelah menonton video dari sini.
Salam.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Lidara udah tampilkan ini dalam bahasa Indonesia. Jadi saya mau katakan begini Pak Lidara. Ini sebenarnya videonya J. Smith tadi itu sudah pernah beberapa tahun lalu saya lihat ya. Itu sampai si J. Smith itu mau dipukul di sebuah taman sama orang-orang yang Muslim itu. Nah, karena dia menunjukkan berbagai bukti variation of Al-Quran ini gitu. Nah, jadi orang itu marah dan pengen merampas Quran-Qurannya itu, tapi dia sambil berjalan gitu. Nah, maksud saya begini, ini kawan-kawan kita si Aditya ini ya, Aditya, Madia, Gurunda, apakah mereka ini bisa berbahasa Inggris ya? Atau apakah mereka tidak pengen tahu sama sekali itu, atau pengen tidak membuktikan apa yang dikatakan oleh
yang ditampilkan Pak Didara tadi, saya yakin mereka ini sama sekali nggak bisa berbahasa Inggris, Pak. Nah, dari situ jelas dikatakan tuh 31 variation of Al-Quran around the world, even more ya, bahkan mungkin ada 37 katanya. Dan versi Walsh itu favoritnya di Afrika. Jadi janganlah mereka ini selalu mengklaim ya, apalagi mengatakan bahwa titik komanya, karaatnya, apanya semua itu sama katanya. Nah ini bukti ya bahwa di seluruh dunia itu banyak perbedaan-perbedaan atau versi-versi Al-Quran ini yang beredar gitu. Nah, ada satu orang mualaf Malaysia itu, Tan Cheng Bung, kalau siapa namanya itu lupa ya. Nah, dia mengatakan tuh dia menjadi mualaf tuh karena di seluruh dunia ini dia bilang it's not even difference dot and comma, dia bilang gitu. All the Quran is the same, dia bilang gitu. Nah, ini orang-orang ini apa buta ya? Mereka selalu mengklaim ke kita bahwa kita ini, ini versi ini. Mereka tidak paham bahwa versi-versi yang terjemahan-terjemahan itu adalah sesuai dengan kosakata perkembangan bahasa. Jadi mereka mengklaim, ini Alkitab tahun sekian, begini. Kalau namanya original teksnya, ya saya rasa nggak ada perbedaan ya, dari dulu tetap begitu. Tapi kalau terjemahan ya wajar, ejaan yang disempurnakan dengan ejaan tempo dulu itu udah pasti dirubah ya. Namanya juga terjemahan. Jadi untuk kawan-kawan kita si Gurunda, polemikus apa ini, cobalah belajar ya, belajar bahasa Inggris. Jangan tuh cuman bahasa apa tuh yang mereka
Bahasa
sendiri pun tidak
cacing.
paham.
Kata Pak King David,
Bahasa cacing yang tulisannya kayak cacing itu gitu loh. Nah, jadi kalau mereka belajar berbahasa Inggris, paling tidak tuh mereka smart dikit gitu loh. Jangan tuh belajarnya yang huruf cacing-cacing itu terus yang dipelajarin, tapi artinya pun nggak mengerti. Seperti Bu Farida bilang, bisa membaca nggak tahu artinya, bisa menghafal nggak tahu artinya, macam lah itu yang Ibu Farida bilang. Jadi tolonglah polemikus, mungkin Malacem Adi pun saya nggak yakin Malacem Adi ini bisa bahasa Inggris ya. Nah, bisanya cuma paling itu
bahasa Madura.
Bahasa Madura. Bahasa Madura, orang Madura jual sate di Manado, begitu pulang ke Madura ketemu kawannya dia bilang, tak kira sapangan, nah dia bilang, lupa dia bilang sampean gitu. Ya,
Oke. Ini yang dimaksud Pak K. Forrest Gump ya. Coba kita lihat apakah yang ini.